Now that we have a basic understanding of web designing, we know a little bit about HTML, CSS and some of the tags, and we have designed a very basic website. It is now time to polish our skills to try and learn how to make modern websites. So this is what we are going to learn to design from today onwards. This is a website for an imaginary restaurant called Let's Eat, and you can name it whatever you like, and this is how it looks like. So this is the heading, and upside design a modern website. You can write whatever you want to write. This is the name of the restaurant, Let's Eat, and there is a navigation bar. There's a beautiful background image, a logo, and when I scroll up or down, you can see that some of the text moves up or down with the scrolling. This text goes behind the menu and the background image still remains visible, and the same is true with the rest of the text. And there are some images, beautiful images at the end, and then there's a footer. So very simple web page, and let's learn how to do it. And you can also notice that the image is not moving, and it has a beautiful dark tint which makes the white foreground color really stand out. So without wasting time, let's start. I have created a folder called restaurant on my desktop, and if I open it up, you can see there is another folder within this folder called images, and within this folder I have downloaded some JPEG images. There is one SVG image. All these images have been downloaded from unsplash.com. what it means that we can use these images for our purpose without any legal implications. So these are not copyrighted images. Among these images, there is an image called dish JPG, and JPG is the format, JPEG. And what I have done using the local photo editor on my Windows computer, I have modified it a little bit to give it a sort of darkish or blackish foreground to make it look better as the background image on the website. And there is a SVG image that I want to use as the logo, and you can use any images that you like, but these are the images that I thought can be useful for the website. So I will close this. I will drag and drop this folder on Visual Studio Code to open it up in the text editor, and you can use any text editor that you want. So we now have our folder open, restaurant folder open in the text editor. I am going to create a new file. I will click this icon and I'm going to create a file called index.html. You have to know that for every website the first page has to be called index.html. The reason is when you type a web address in your browser, it goes to a server, the request goes to a server, and it looks for the index.html page. If it is not there, your website can't be loaded. So for that reason, you always have to name your first page as index.html. I will close the Explorer and I will type in the exclamation mark and press tab to create a basic HTML structure. The only thing that I want to do is to change this title. I will call it restaurant, and as you can see by this dot, the file is not saved. I'm going to save it, and I will minimize my browser. If I open this folder again, you can see that we now have our index.html page. If I double click on it, it's a blank page with the exception of this title that we have just created. So I'm going to change the size of my browser and minimize this and open my text editor again, and probably change the size of the editor as well, so we can see the web browser as well as the text editor side by side. The first thing that I want to do is to create a background image that we saw earlier, and for that I'm going to create a style tag, an opening and closing style tag to write our CSS Now again, as you know, usually CSS files are created as a separate file and then they are linked, but to keep things very simple, I will just create a style tag. I'll just write my CSS within my index.html. Remember, practically and professionally, this is not how it is done, but if your page is a single page website, there's no harm in it. You can do it. There is a possibility, and we are doing it right now. And this is just because I don't want to confuse you guys. My target audience is beginners, and I don't want to confuse you by opening and closing different web pages. We have learned how to create a separate CSS file in past, but to keep things very simple, I am just writing my CSS within my index page with the help of these style tags. So the first thing that I want to target is our body element, body, and when you're so body is a selector and an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and we want to use first thing that we want to use is the background image. If I type in URL, the image that we want to use is within this folder. It's not in the root folder of restaurant. So the name of the folder is images. I'm going to say images and /, and as soon as I do that, I have a list of all the images that are available in this folder. So I'm going to use this image called dish. Close the Explorer, file, save, refresh my page, and we have a background image. If I change the size of my browser, you can see that the image is repeating, and if I go to 100%, image is too big. If I change the size of my browser, if I minimize it, the image is repeating. Okay, so we want to add a few more CSS properties. We want to say, first thing that I want to do, I want to give this body element a fixed height and width. So I'll say width 100 VW, 100% of the view width, no matter what device it is. If it can be a mobile device like a mobile phone or a laptop or a tablet, the 100% of the view width will be the size of the body, and the height would be 100 VH, whatever is the vertical height of the device is. So save it, and if I refresh it, you can see that if I refresh my if I reset my zoom level to 100%, the image is too big. So I'll change the size of my browser one more time, and I want to save background size cover. That should fix the size of the image, so the image size looks to be fitting into the browser. This is regardless of the zoom factor. So if I change the size of my page zoom level 25% only, the size of the image does not change. So I'll reset it back to 100%, and you can see the image size is still the same. So change the size of my browser one more time. The next thing that I want to do is to create a markup within my body tags, and what I want to do is to create a navigation bar. So nav is the HTML element that would create a navigation bar, and within this navigation bar I want to create some anchor tags. A times 6. I want to create 6 anchor elements. So A times 6, and tab. The browser, the text editor has created 6 anchor elements which can be used in our navigation bar. Reference is empty, href is empty, so I'm going to click into this field here, Control Alt and down arrow to multi-edit 6 elements at the same time, and now I will press hash symbol to create a fake link. The link will not go anywhere. However, within The first link I want to say home, and I want to call this menu. The third one will be venue. The fourth one will be order online. The fifth one would be catering, and the last one would be contact us. So if I now save it and refresh my page, you can see that there is a navigation bar. The default color makes it look very ugly. And if I, for a moment, if I just comment this image out, save it and refresh it, this is our menu. This is our navigation bar, which is not ideal. So I'm going to apply some CSS properties. I will bring my background image back, save it and refresh it. This is our navigation bar, and let's apply some CSS properties to it. So I'm going to target this nav element, and the first thing that I want to do is to create a border, 2 pixel solid white. So this is going to create a white border around the element. If I save it and refresh it, we have a white border. And if I maximize my browser, you can see it is taking the full width of the web page. So I want to give it a width of 800 pixels. So if I save it and refresh my page, the width of the navigation bar is now 800 pixels. However, before I do anything, I want to target these anchor elements to see them a bit clearly. So every anchor element that is within this navigation bar, and that's how you target elements within and other elements. So all the anchor elements, if the anchor element is outside this navigation bar, these CSS properties will not apply to that. So an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and the thing that I want to change is the color to white. So the color of the text will become white, so it is a bit more clearly visible. The navigation bar has to be displayed in the center, so I'll change the size of my browser and go back to my text editor. So within body, I'm not targeting the nav element, I'm targeting body. I want to say display flex and justify content center. This will horizontally center the elements that are directly within which are the direct children of the body. So if I now save it, maximize the size of my browser, refresh it, the navigation bar, although it is in center, the width, the height is way too much. So I'm going to give it a width and height. Width is already there, so height maybe 40 pixels should be more than enough. So if I now save it and refresh my browser, we have a navigation bar that looks exactly in the middle, and the width and height are just appropriate. I just want to increase the top gap, the gap from here, that would be margin. So I will go to my navigation element and I will say margin top 60 pixels should do. So if I save it and refresh my web page, the navigation bar is now 60 pixels below. So we want to further improve these things. I'm going to change the size of my browser, the border radius of the navigation bar, maybe 50 pixels. If I now save it and refresh my page, we have the border radius 50 pixels. These elements have to be visible in the middle of the page, both horizontally and vertically. So again, we can target our nav element, and I can say display flex and justify content center, which will bring the text horizontally in the center. So if I now save it and refresh my page, the text, all the elements that are within this navigation bar are horizontally centered. We want them vertically centered as well. So the CSS property for this is align items center. If I now save it and maximize my browser, refresh my page, the text is now horizontally centered, although it is way close to each other. We want a bit of a gap within these anchor elements. We want to go to nav A, so we are targeting these anchor elements, and I can simply say padding 10 pixels. So if I now save it, refresh my page, we have a beautiful looking navigation bar, and I want to get rid of these underlines here. To get rid of underlines within the to get rid of this underline text, I can say text decoration none. So if I now save it and if I maximize my web page, you'll notice that these underlines will go away. We don't have any underlines now. So this is how our web page looks like at the moment. I will stop here and I will see you in the next lesson. Thank you very much.